Rochus Misch, SS Oberscharführer, Führerbunker signals operator. His foxhole-level account of Berlin's last days is the most intimate and emotionally vivid primary source from inside the bunker. There is a rule you learn early, long before the concrete walls close around you, long before the lamps buzz with dying electricity, long before Berlin becomes a furnace. You do not let fear show, not in the Leibstandarte, not near the Führer, not in front of officers who read weakness like a map. Fear is a contagion, a crack, a signal that something inside you has already surrendered. For years, everyone around you believed this rule was unbreakable. The Führer's headquarters, wherever it stood, was supposed to be a sanctum of certainty, a place where orders flowed outward, never inward, a place untouched by doubt, untouched by panic, untouched by reality. But in April 1945, deep beneath the crushed city of Berlin, surrounded by Soviet armies numbering more than 1 million men, a moment arrives when the rule collapses. And you, Rochus Misch, 27 years old, signals operator, bodyguard, the quiet shadow in the room, you are there to witness it. Because in 1945, one moment shatters everything. The Red Army enters Berlin. You grew up in Alt-Schalkowitz, a village so small that the world felt far away. Your father died when you were a child, and your mother shortly after. You were raised by grandparents who taught you strength through silence. It shaped you, turned you into the kind of man who speaks little, notices everything, and rarely lets emotion reach the surface. By 1937, you served in the Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler. Not by ideology, that has long since been stripped away, but by circumstance, by the sort of pulled-along momentum that sweeps young men into uniform. You trained hard, fought in Poland, Belgium, and Russia. A bullet through your lung nearly killed you in 1941. When you recovered, you were reassigned to the Führer's personal signal detachment, a quieter job, one that promised fewer bullets and more telephones. And now, in April 1945, that quiet job traps you in the Führerbunker, 33 rooms, 18 meters underground, 2.5 meters of reinforced concrete above your head, as Berlin collapses. The city is a ruin. 2,000 Soviet guns fire 1.8 million shells into its districts. Street after street falls. Refugees run. Officers argue. Rumors multiply faster than facts. The Führer, once driven by volcanic energy, now shuffles between rooms. His left hand trembles. He sleeps little. He eats less. And each hour the tension spreads through the bunker like a gas. The stakes are clear. If the Soviets break through the last defensive ring, there will be no escape. For anyone. Not for the generals, not for the secretaries, not for you. For weeks, the High Command believed the city might hold, that the Ninth Army would break through, that Wink's 12th Army would come from the west, that Steiner's forces would counterattack. But by April 25th, the Soviets had closed their ring around Berlin, and you, sitting at your console of wires, switches, and dying connections, hear it first. Berlin is alone. And that is when the challenge begins. Not a mission of battle, but a mission of endurance, of watching a world collapse in real time, meter by meter, shell by shell. Now the Soviet army pushes toward the Reich Chancellery itself, and you are standing at the intersection of fear and history. It starts on April 26th, a deep rolling thunder, a vibration through the concrete, a breath of dust falling from the ceiling. Soviet batteries fire from 1,500 meters, then 1,000, then 700 meters. Artillery so close you can feel the air compress before you hear the explosion. You sit at the telephone switchboard, 8 lines,
Two are still functioning. The bulb glows red, barely, every time a connection comes through, and each time it carries worse news. Charlottenburg has fallen. SS units retreating from Tiergarten. The Soviets are at the Potsdamer Bridge.
You repeat the messages. You hear your own voice, calm and flat, but your pulse beats fast, a steady hammer in your ears. By noon, Soviet tanks reach within 400 meters of the Reich Chancellery Gardens. You walk the narrow corridor to deliver a report. The bunker shakes. The lights flicker. The stale air tastes of concrete dust. In the Führer's conference room, maps cover the table. Tiny arrows, little flags, armies that no longer exist. General Krebs leans over them with hollow eyes. Bormann paces. Goebbels whispers to his wife. Hitler sits in his chair, shoulders bent, staring at the floor. You stand silent in the doorway. No one looks up. No one needs to. Everyone knows the Red Army is now fighting in the streets above your head. Late on April 28th, you hear it, the first direct hit on the Chancellery. A deafening crack, a blast wave that slams into your chest. The lights cut out for 3 seconds. Then emergency bulbs flicker on, orange, weak, ghost-like. Voices shout down the stairwell. Footsteps, the smell of smoke. You grab your headset. Signals? Someone yells. You answer, still functioning. A lie. Only one line remains, a single fragile thread connecting the bunker to the last fragmented pockets of resistance. You test the line. Static. Then a voice, breathing hard. Enemy. 50 meters. Repeat. 50 meters. 50 meters. Half a football field. You swallow. Your mouth is dry. Around 02 o'clock, you take a brief rotation break. You climb the stairwell to the upper bunker entrance. The guard opens the heavy steel door. You step out into the Chancellery ruins. The night sky glows red. Soviet flares float over the Tiergarten like dying stars. Machine guns rattle from the north. The smell hits you. Smoke, burning wood, fuel, and something worse. You walk 10 steps. You feel exposed. Every shadow could hide a soldier. A tank shell streaks overhead and crashes into what remains of the next building. Shards of stone rain down around you. You hurry back underground. Your heart pounds. Your hands shake for the first time. Hitler's last conference. When you return to the map room, the air feels even heavier, thick with resignation. Hitler dismisses Steiner's attack as betrayal. He rages at the generals. Then the rage fades. He grows quiet, slumps in his chair, and whispers, "All is lost." You stand by the wall, watching the words break him. The rule is gone. Fear is everywhere. No one hides it now. By April 30th, Soviet troops reach the north garden of the Reich Chancellery, roughly 150 meters from the bunker's emergency exit. You hear every report. 150 meters, 120 meters, 90 meters, 60 meters. You listen, breath shallow. Red Army in the Kaiserhof ruins. Machine gun teams entering Wilhelmstrasse. T-34 sighted near the Chancellery front. At 40 meters, the bunker shakes again. You feel the floor tremble. Dust filters down. Someone shouts that the Soviets are preparing explosives. You steady yourself, gripping the edge of your switchboard table. Then comes the moment that transforms everything. At roughly 15:30, a guard appears beside you. He wants no interruptions, he says softly.
You understand immediately. You take off your headset, the wires fall limp. You stand up slowly. The guard locks the door to the upper corridor. The sound of the bolt sliding echoes like a verdict. Minutes pass. A muffled crack, a short, sharp sound. then a heavier thump. You do not move. No one breathes. Finally, someone opens the door to the Führer's private room. Then the announcement comes. He's gone. You say nothing. The others around you say nothing. The air itself feels frozen. The rule, the old rule, is not merely broken. It is irrelevant now. Joseph Goebbels assumes command. Krebs attempts negotiations. Both fail. By May 1st, Soviet forces storm all remaining streets. They reach the chancellery floors above your head. You hear boots, shouts in Russian, grenades exploding at close range. The bunker shakes again. You were ordered to stay at your post. You know the Soviets are within 10 meters, perhaps less, of breaking through. And yet you breathe. You continue working, because that is your role, to remain calm in the storm, even when the storm is about to swallow everything. If you find this kind of forgotten history as fascinating as we do, we'd be honored if you'd hit that subscribe button. We believe these stories of courage, survival, and human endurance deserve to be told. And by subscribing, you help ensure they are not forgotten. What you cannot see, deep underground, is how rapidly events above you shift. The Soviets discover the chancellery tunnels. They follow the sounds of retreating guards. They trace the smell of fuel and explosives. They already suspect the Führer is dead, but they need proof. And they believe, wrongly, that the bunker may still contain high-ranking officers attempting to escape. Their urgency increases tenfold. Marshal Zhukov orders, seal every exit, flood every tunnel. No one leaves. Soviet infantry tighten their perimeter. IS-2 heavy tanks fire point-blank into the surrounding buildings. Flamethrower teams move into position. The speed of their advance forces the remaining German pockets into chaos. General Weidling surrenders the city. The Volkssturm disperses. The last SS defenders ran out of ammunition. And new consequences unfold. The fall of Berlin accelerates the collapse of the remaining German forces by days. Eastern Front resistance crumbles as units learn the capital is gone. Civilians across the Reich panic, accelerating mass surrenders. The Western Allies push unopposed into Bavaria and northern Germany. Remaining SS units lose cohesion, many abandoning positions altogether. But the greatest ripple is psychological.
For 12 years, the regime portrayed itself as unbreakable. Now, the sight of Soviet troops raising the red banner over the Reichstag, just 800 meters from where you stand, becomes one of the most defining images of the 20th century. And you are underground as history pivots around you. On May 2nd, with the bunker overrun, you finally make your decision. You climb the stairs. You push open the steel door. And for the first time in years, you step outside without orders. A Soviet soldier spots you instantly. You raise your hands. You do not run. You do not resist. You survive. Many others do not. In the years that follow, you spend 9 years in Soviet captivity. You return to Germany in 1954, older, quieter, carrying memories that never release their grip. Traudl Junge writes her memoirs. Gerda Christian fades into obscurity. General Krebs dies in the bunker. Joseph and Magda Goebbels die by their own hand. The children die. Most guards die. Most officers die. But you, Rochus Misch, became the last living witness to the final days in the Führerbunker. You live until 2013, age 96. To this day, historians debate your role. Some see you as a passive observer, others as a loyal functionary. But no one denies this truth. You were there. You heard the last phone calls. You felt the walls shake. You witnessed the final collapse from the closest seat in history. And your story matters because it reminds us that the end of regimes, even the most monstrous, is not abstract.
It happens in rooms, in whispers, in trembling hands, in the eyes of ordinary people caught inside extraordinary nightmares. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Every click tells the algorithm that this piece of history is worth remembering. We're dedicated to rescuing these stories from the archives. If you want to join us on this mission, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment with your city or state and tell us if someone in your family served. Thank you for ensuring that Rochus Misch and the men and women trapped in the Führerbunker do not disappear into silence. They deserve to be remembered.